focusing, I mean, of course, you know, begin always is about the breath, right? And one of the best ways we can access the breath is by lying down on our backs. So I want you to have your knees bent with your feet apart, and then let the knees hang together. So this is going to allow the femur heads to sink back into the hip sockets, and you can just feel a bit relaxed. You might have to shift your feet down here or up here. Doesn't matter, just wherever you feel like you can rest, get your shoulder blades, your scapula flat on the back, and then have a hand on the belly and a hand on the heart. We start class like this a lot, but we also talk about, you know, you could be in this really advanced yoga practice and not be breathing correctly. And that's going to affect, you know, your mental health, the way you sleep, things like that. So go ahead and just start to notice how you're breathing. We're not going to control anything right now. We're just observing without attaching any judgment to what we think we should be doing and this and that. Just notice the inhale and the exhale. You can close the eyes if you're comfortable doing that. And you do still want this small curve in the lower lumbar, the lower back. You should be able to put your hand under there still. Begin to connect with the breath. Connect with your mat, feeling all the parts of the body that are touching the mat. And so even if we've been practicing for a while, we can still arrive on the mat with different habits and patterns. And that's really what we're focusing on for the month of December is samskara. It's a Sanskrit word for conditioning, habits that we, you know, form from experiences and things that we bring to the mat and off the mat. So in our book of the Yoga Sutras, it is explained that every thought, emotion, and experience leaves on the mind. And when we come to the mat and do our yoga practice, you know, not just stretching, we have an opportunity to use this method of movement to kind of release us from these past conditionings. And we do that by just arriving in the present moment. Instead of bringing, you know, this idea of, oh, I have tight hamstrings, so I'm going to bring that to the mat and just work around it. Nope, we're just seeing where we are in the present moment, breathing and observing. So that's what we're going to focus on today. When we're breathing in yoga, something we haven't talked about for a while, when we're breathing in through the nose, you know, we have these filters on the inside of our nostrils that kind of, you know, grab things and give us more of a purified breath. So that's one of the reasons we do that. And then it helps us control the effect on our mind. Now, as you breathe in, notice if the belly and the chest are both working. Breathe in, the belly should rise. Doesn't have to rise too far, but it should rise. And then move up to the lungs, filling the lungs as deeply as you can. And then as you exhale, everything contracts and kind of just falls together. So see if you can move the breath to do that. Inhale, belly, chest, and exhale. And we'll just stay with that breathing pattern for a few moments. Take 3 more breaths, following the inhale and the exhale. Being sure when you exhale to completely empty the lungs before you take a new breath. And then on that third exhale, go ahead and start to blink the eyes open. Now, as we go through the class today, even as the postures get, we're going to remember that slow, steady breath that we were just doing. You can release the hands, separate the knees, bring your left ankle to the top of your right thigh for a supine pigeon here. Interlace your fingers behind the right thigh and draw the knee towards the chest. Keep both feet flexed just to keep, this left knee joint stable. And if you don't feel much of a stretch here, you can grab the outside of the knee and see if that helps. And if you still don't, then, that's good. Your piriformis muscle is nice. You're a lucky one. And we're going to take 3 deep breaths here. And then exhale, bring the right foot down. Uncross the legs and do the other side. So right ankle to the left thigh, interlace behind the left leg, and draw the knee towards the chest. And notice any differences here. Is this side more tight? Is it more open? Just observing and learning the body. If you keep your eyes closed, even through this, and just kind of trust your ears with me talking, you'll be able to turn off that extra distraction of sight and focus more inward. Take a couple more breaths here. And then exhale, bring both feet a twist. So of course, we always want to have that well practice of, forward folds, back bends, balance, things like that. But we are going to do a lot of standing stuff today to kind of stay grounded in this last part of the year. So I want to make sure your hips are nice and ready and your legs are ready. Take your hips and shift them to the left side of the mat. Just go as far as you can and then drop your knees to the right. And so with your arms, you can either extend the arms or you can keep them bent. It all depends on how tight your pectoral muscles are. So if you feel like you can keep the left shoulder heavy towards the mat with the arms bent, I would stay there. Otherwise, keep them extended. And if your left shoulder's too high off the ground, you can put a blanket under there. You can put a block, something like that, maybe a dog. And we're trying to get both scapula on the mat. So both shoulder blades, trying to get them as flat as possible on the mat. If your neck is okay with it, you can look over the left fingers. Or the left. Try to keep the belly nice and soft here for this twist. It's massaging the organs. We'll take 3 more breaths. And then exhale, knees back up towards the ceiling. Nice slow movements here. We're not in a hurry. Pelvis back to the center of the mat. Now lift, decide what you're going to do with your arms for this side. The shoulder might be different than the other, so just try both. Extend or bend. Maybe look over to the right and breathe. And sometimes it's kind of nice to notice, you know, obviously we're in a twist here, so the breath is a little bit restricted in some areas. It's something to focus on to keep us in the present moment. Where are you feeling it in the body? How are you feeling the breath travel? On your next exhalation, you're going to bring the knees back up towards the ceiling, nice and slow. Shift the pelvis back to the center of the mat. And then we're going to bring the knees up to the chest one at a time to protect the lower back, rock left to right, and really squish the lower back muscles on the mat. And then we'll slow down our movement. Bring the feet back down. Roll onto your right side to push yourself up. And yes, I'm wearing a scarf. I'm like really cold this morning. And typically socks are not the best thing on the mat either, but yeah, I'm cold. So just come to a seated position, easy pose. If you are feeling compression in the lower back, we know we got to put something underneath the sitting bones to lift and tilt the pelvis a little bit. That could even be the back of your mat. Just roll it up, stick it under the sitting bones. Just that little bit of height is going to be helpful. An easy pose is just like we know, crossing the legs. We're going to inhale, bring the arms up. Palms together, exhale, hands in front of the heart. 2 more times like that. Just open up the lungs. Inhale up. Exhale, hands in front of the heart. Last time, inhale up. Grab the left wrist and exhale, lean to the right. Inhale back to center, grab the right wrist. Exhale, lean to the left. Yeah, part of my shirt's missing too. I guess I just felt a big breeze. Back to center, bring the arms down. We're gonna just do a simple twist here, seated. Left hand to the right knee. Remember to inhale and get tall before you rotate. So inhale, lengthen through the crown of the head, and then exhale, rotate to the right. You can keep your chin over the heart. You can look over your right shoulder. Most important thing is just to breathe here. And after a breath or two, you might notice you can rotate the right shoulder back a little bit more from the middle of the back, from the middle of the spine, the thoracic spine. We'll take one more breath here, shoulders away from the ears. And exhale, back to center. Other side, right hand to left knee, left fingertips behind you. Inhale, lengthen first. And for those who are new but have taken this class a couple of times, you're going to notice a lot of things like we do a lot of the same stuff in here. You know, we never perfect it. We never try to. We just start to, you know, like those patterns and behaviors that we bring to the mat that I was talking about. We just kind of start to unpeel the layers of where we are with our thinking. You know, once we're in the physical posture, we really need to notice where the breath is. And then our mind will leave. And then we go back to the breath over and over again, just a lifelong process. Next exhale, come back to center. And then we're going to walk the fingertips forward. So bring the fingertips to the floor. If you feel like you're bending your fingers, we don't want to do that to the joint. So you can do flat palms too. Just walk the hands forward. Really irrelevant how far you go and reach forward. Once you feel, you know, that knock on the door of the stretch, we're not busting the door open, then you can stop and breathe. We don't want to go all the way to the floor and compromise the spine. So keep the inner edges of the shoulder blades drawing towards each other, shoulders back. And then inhale, lift the head. Start to walk the hands towards the body. And we're gonna switch legs. So patterns and behaviors, right? Whatever you did for this first leg crossing is what you normally are gonna do every single time. So I'm gonna make you change that pattern by bringing whatever leg was on the bottom on the top now. And it's gonna feel very strange unless you've been doing this with me all week, and it might start to already feel a little bit different, like your body's already starting to shift. And then we're going to walk the hands forward once again. So bring the fingertips or the palms down to the floor in front of you. Pay attention to the inner edges of the shoulder blades. Walk the hands forward. You might not be able to go as far here because this leg is not as formed to the other leg. Or maybe not. I mean, everybody is different. There's no rule. Take a few breaths here. And now inhale, look up and walk the hands towards the body. We're going to come into child's pose. During this begin class, you're not going to hear a lot of the Sanskrit versions of the words, but sometimes I will say them, and I'll always say the English version with that. But there's not going to be a test at the end, so you don't have to worry about that. So coming in this together, knees apart, and we sit back on the heels. Walk the hands forward. If this is not okay for your knees, we shift the weight forward into the forearms and still try to find a restful position here. Press the hands into the mat, open up the shoulders a little bit. The forehead is going to go down to the mat. The forehead is going to go down to the mat, and if it's not reaching, then you're going to stack your fists. I can't ever assume that anyone has, like a phone book nearby or something anymore, but eventually you might want to invest in a yoga block or something like that. For now, the fists will do just fine if your forehead doesn't touch the mat. So here, notice what you're feeling. Maybe you feel a stretch up by the hip creases. Maybe you feel this in the top of your feet. Now, even though we are stretching here, we're not entirely passive, really in many yoga poses. Your shoulder girdle is still working. The neck is still neutral. And now bring your attention to the breath and feel the breath traveling up and down either side of the spine evenly. Feel the lungs expand in the back side of the body. And just let the belly hang here. Feel it maybe touching the thighs. We're going to take 3 more breaths in child's pose. And on that last exhale, lift the head. Start to walk the hands towards the body just a little bit and shift yourself up to hands, knees. You're going to bring the knees directly under the hips. And then your hands, of course, are going to be at least shoulder width apart. And you can have the wrist directly on ice, especially in the beginning, to just have them a little bit in front of the shoulders. This part never gets old talking about, because we're talking about major joints of the body, right? Wrist creases should be lined up parallel with the front of your mat. So always check that. They shouldn't be out here. They shouldn't be in here. They should be parallel to the front of your mat. And we're not looking at the fingers, we're looking at the wrist joint, okay? We're pressing the ball mounds of the big finger, pinky finger, and just kind of suctioning our palm. But our hands have a tendency to start to lift here. We want to press because that's going to ground the humeri in the shoulder socket. Important. And then the inner edges of the shoulder blades, we want them to be facing towards each other. We know that we are getting an internal rotation, important when we're doing any weight bearing on the wrists. Now we're ready, because that's going to guide you quickly for the other postures, but just, you know, the foundation knowledge for pose. I'll lift the tailbone, drop the spine, and lift the gaze. So again, we don't want to, bend the cervical spine, bend it in half. We just want to really lift the chin, still lengthen in the back of the neck. And then as we exhale, lead with the tailbone, begin to arch, separate the shoulder blades, drop the head completely. And push the hand. Now you're going to go with your own breath. Inhale. Drop the spine. Try to release the muscles away from the spine. And then exhale. We're going to do this for a few more rounds. And I think there's somebody else in this class that would really agree 100% that the real mobility we want is in our spine, right? So any movement we can bring to it every day. It's very rare that we don't do this pose in a class. All right, wherever you are, finish your round and come to a neutral spine. And then bring your hands all the way to the front of your mat. We're going to do big hip circles here. So shift forward, and we don't want the shoulders to go over the wrists. That's why the hands are super far forward. Shift to the right, to the back, to the left. 3 big circles. Just moving the hips around. If you need to put some padding under your knees for this, go ahead and do that. You can even just fold over the edges of the mat to put underneath your knees. Then go in the opposite direction when you're done with the one side. And then bring it back to where we started, hands and knees. Bring the hands closer, just a little bit in front of the shoulders. And extend the right leg behind you, just straight back. Toes pointing down so the foot is flexed. We're lifting from the inner thigh. Navel is pressing towards the spine so we don't have a low dip in the lower back. And extend the left arm out in front of you. So fingertips, like somebody's pulling your fingertips and you're pushing out through your heel. You're looking straight down at the mat. Keep the neck neutral. On your exhale, we're going to bring the knee and the elbow together. Nice and slow. Exhale, knee to elbow, round the back, drop the head. Inhale, extend. Remember that right hand, you should be pressing the ball mounds of the fingers. Exhale, knee to elbow, drop the head. One more time. Inhale, extend. And then exhale, hand to knee. Take the top of your hand, press it onto the mat. Stretch that wrist. So top of the hand is pressing on the mat. Fingertips are pointing towards the body. And then just release and shake it out a little bit. We're gonna do that same exact thing on the other side. Seems like a very simple balancing pose, right? But it's actually pretty difficult. I mean, got a lot of stuff going on to pay attention to. Extend the left leg behind you. Now we're not looking for the leg to be up here. We want everything to be on the center, right? So internal rotation of the shoulder. You're looking straight down, you're pressing your left hand. Exhale, bring the knee and the elbow together. Around the back, drop the head. Move with the breath. Inhale, extend. And then exhale, hand to knee back on the mat. Take your left hand, bring it to the center of the mat. Inhale, reach the right fingertips up towards the ceiling. We're doing a counter twist here. We're gonna exhale and thread the needle. Right arm under the left, bring your head to the ground. Left hand is gonna support you. So left hand is pressing into the mat, elbow up towards the ceiling. And if you feel a stretch here, this is where you wanna stay. You're looking to feel, you know, some space in the right shoulder socket. If your shoulders are nice and open and you don't feel anything, you can bring the left arm over the top of the mat or even behind you. But sometimes the neck doesn't like that either. You have to listen to that and take a few breaths here. You can shift your hips to center. And on your next exhale, come up to hands and knees. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So right hand to the center, inhale the left arm up, and then exhale, slide it through. Reach those left fingertips as far as you can. I'm gonna watch you guys for a moment. And then all of the same stuff. So your right hand is pressing, elbow is bent, unless you've run out of stretch, and then you can do all those other things. Center the hips as much as possible. And then just be careful that you're not, you know, bending your neck. You're kind of balancing on your head and keeping the neck strong. All of those little things, because the cervical spine is so fragile, it also can get strong pretty quickly too, with just little decisions like that. And take a couple more breaths here. Exhale, come back up to hands and knees. All right, we ready for a pose breakdown? Pretty important one too, because we do it in like every class. And you know, Jody and Robin, you guys have been coming in class for a while, and you've been in the alignment classes as well. So see if there's something you can grab from here that's new. Who knows, right? If anything, you're just still practicing it. So we're talking about Chaturanga Dandasana, which is our four-limb staff pose. And what we're doing is it looks, I'll show you first. It looks like we kind of begin in plank, you know, but it's not too high, it's not too low. We're right in the center. And what happens from here is, you know, all of the arm stuff is set up. We shift forward with our toes, and then the elbows point straight back, and we evenly lower the body to the mat. Elbows kiss the sides of the body. If this is your first time doing it, and go ahead and try that. I'll show you what our habits typically are. We usually come down here first and then chest, and we really want it to be all the same. Knee option. Yeah, take the knee option, especially in the begin class, even if you've done this a million times. Elbows still kiss the sides of the body, all the way down, okay? All right, we're gonna be doing it here in a minute. First, curl the toes under, lift the hips up and back, and we're in downward facing dog. So the ears line up with the inner elbows. We're pushing the floor away from us. And, you know, true down dog is a spine lengthener, not a hamstring opener, although it can do that. So bend the knees if your back is rounding. So the back is rounding, you bend the knees a little bit, and then you can lengthen through the tailbone. You can also, spend a moment and just pedal the feet to open up the calf muscles and the hamstrings. Usually with our first down dog, we do take a little bit of time to kind of get in the body. Well, we won't stay here long because it can be tiring on the wrists in the beginning. Lengthen through the tailbone, so find some stillness. We're going to inhale and look up at our hands and start to walk forward. And then we're going to exhale and fold. Now, can we talk about forward folds for a moment? Keeping the legs straight to fold like this is not what we're looking for. I have tight hamstrings, so I need to bend my knees in order to get my belly on top of the thighs. This way I know that I'm not bending from here. The back goes into flexion a little bit, but I'm not here, right? Inner edges of the shoulder blades, we keep them towards each other. Okay, we're gonna try that also with our chaturanga. Inhale, bring your hands to your shins, lengthen through the crown of the head. And I'll tell you what, I practiced yoga for about 12 years before I felt like I did a forward fold the right way, the right way, quote unquote. So we learn it when we learn it. Hands to the thighs, inhale, lengthen even more. Shoulders back. You don't want to pass out here, so we're moving slowly. Slight inhale, bring the arms up. Palms together, exhale, hands in front of the heart. Okay, are we ready? Sun salutation. We also do this quite a bit. And this is where the forward folding and the chaturanga will come into play. Because even if we, start this samskara, this bad pattern, we start to condition the body that wrong, injurious way, it can be detrimental to our practice. Then we hurt our shoulder. We don't want to come back ever again, all these things. So come to the front of your mat, inner edges of the feet. I'm going to face you this way, but you're going to stay. Inner edges of the feet are parallel. And just like we press on the ball mounds of the big fingers and the pinky for our hands, we do that same thing with the feet for standing stuff, grounding the femur in the hip socket. Engage the quadriceps, lift the chest, spread the collarbones, and just drop the hands here. Begin in our mountain pose. Chin is parallel to the floor. And now that we've made it off the floor, maybe just close the eyes and focus inward again. Recalibrate the breath. Remember that slow, steady breath from the beginning. This is a pose that we use often, Tadasana, or mountain pose. We're rooted through the feet. We're reaching up through the crown of the head. Evenly beating the weight in our body. And we're strong. Our muscles are activated here. Our legs are very strong. You can blink the eyes open and we'll begin our sun salutation A. You're already at the front of your mat, so stay there. Nice and slow. Inhale, bring the arms up. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees, remember, if you have to, belly to thigh. Drop the head completely. Inhale, get a flat back. Lift the head. You can either be at fingertips or hands to the shins. And now we're going to exhale and step back and lower into that chaturanga. So knees or not, elbows touch the sides of the body. We go all the way down evenly. Uncurl the toes. Inhale. Press the pelvis into the mat. The backs of the legs are strong. We're lifting the chest, shoulders, head. Elbows are still tucked in. Now curl the toes under, and on an exhale, hips up and back to downward facing dog. And we're gonna take 5 breaths here. Now, if your wrists are getting tired, you can also come into this child's pose, and you can do it anytime. So you decide which one. 1, deep, deep breaths. 2. 3. 4. 5. Inhale, look up, step forward. Exhale, fold. Drop the head. Press all 4 corners of the feet. Inhale, come all the way up. Palms together, exhale, hands in front of the heart. Back to our Tadasana or mat. Good. We're gonna do it one more time. Ready? Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, look up. Exhale, step back. Lower evenly, Chaturanga. Inhale, this is Cobra. And exhale, decide child's pose or down dog for 5 breaths. 1, 2, and you can always change your mind. 3, 4, 5. We're all gonna meet in the front of the mat. So inhale, look up and step forward. If you're in child's pose, you'll please and then down. But everyone's gonna walk forward and fold. Inhale the arms all the way up, palms together. Exhale, hands in front of the heart. Nice. Is everyone doing okay? Good, good stuff. You know, it's really interesting. I just want to point out quickly, go ahead and release the hands. You know, those things like, do we decide if we go into child's pose or do we decide if we go into downward facing dog? You know, the brain wants to take over and make that decision for us instead of being in the complete present moment, listening to the body. Is also, for me, as like a recovering perfectionist, I'm going to make a choice and then I'm going to stick with it, whether my body likes it or not. So these are pattern, you know, like old behaviors, pattern stuff, those samskaras. So say I decide to go into down dog, but my arms are getting tired. There's no way I'm giving up. So that's me fighting, right? That's the same behavior that I can have a tendency to take off the mat as well. We read our behaviors and what we do with these asanas. That's why it talks about, like what we talked about in the beginning, this is where we find our freedom. Like we get to practice those things here and see the direct correlation off the mat. It's very, very cool, very eye-opening. And not to be, you know, self-lashing either, just to learn about ourselves. All right, so let's move on to some warriors, shall we? Bring your left leg back. For warriors, we want to be sure that our hip points are pointing forward, front of the mat. And then our stance is going to be like heel to heel. But if you have a tight psoas, you know, your hip's not going to let you do that. You're going to get too much curve here. So sometimes it's easier just to bring your foot closer to the edge of the mat and wrap that left hip forward. Okay. Press the outer edge, the outer edge. Press the outer edge of the back foot. Release the tailbone towards the mat. You're not tucking it, you're just kind of releasing it. Get tall through the crown of the head. And now keep everything in the front knee. Knee does not go over the ankle here, meaning beyond the ankle. It should be directly over the ankle and even covering that second and third toe so we know it's lined up. And now we're going to add the arms. So inhale, palms face up towards the ceiling. We bring the arms up as high as we can, press the shoulders down, press press the shoulder blades down towards the tailbone. We're going to take 5 breaths here. Remember, slow, steady breathing. Legs are working. Good. Bring the hands down and bring the feet together. Shake the legs out a little bit. All right, now I'm going to watch you guys do the other side. So bring your right leg back. Remember, you're lining up heel to heel. So the back toes are at like a 45-degree angle to help the pelvis be able to point forward. Good. I didn't say anything about arms yet. Release the tailbone. Press the outer edge of the back foot and now bend into the front knee. So the back leg is getting this internal rotation, right? It's drawing oh, Jody, did you do that side already, or is that you just started with the other side? Okay, yeah, no problem, as long as you do both sides. So we just try to keep wrapping that right hip forward. Yep, and now go ahead and add the arms. So inhale, palms face up to try to get the shoulders grounded. If your elbows start to bend, just back out. Just bring the arms down a little bit until they're straight and stay there. That's how we'll work on the mobility. The strengthening will help the mobility. Take 5 breaths here. Continue to press the outer edge of the back foot, that the glutes should be engaged. The inner edge of the front foot is pressing. Now, where's your breath? Soften the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. And also the warrior in you in this pose. It's powerful. Go ahead and bring the hand and jump your moves. Yeah, even those little hops are going to strengthen the bones. Shake the legs out a little bit. We're going to do hand to knee pose and kind of open the hips this way instead of doing regular tree. You can use a wall nearby or something like that. Remember to press the ball mount of the left foot. That will be the one we're standing on. Squeeze the muscles towards the bones. Everything is active in this left leg. And then lift the right heel. Before we lift the right knee, notice what's going on from the waist up. Lift the chest, draw the inner edges of the shoulder blades towards each other and down. And now find your focus point. Bring the left hand on the pelvic rim. And then slowly lift the right knee. It's not about getting there, right? What do they say? The journey. I'm just kidding. I know that saying. I know all of the overused cliche sayings. All right, we're going to take a few breaths here. You can stay here or you can begin to open out to the right. And remember, ask for help if you need it. That means wall, dresser, whatever. What we don't want is to shift out on this left hip. Keep everything active. I'll come back. Center. Check those quadriceps. 3 breaths here. 1, 2, 3, and release. That's tough, right? It depends, right, Jody? If you're practicing it all the time, like it gets easier, that's for sure. Go ahead and find that pose on the other side. Get everything set up with the right leg, lift the left heel, find your focus point. We call that the drishti. That is our focus. We don't take our eyes off of it. Go ahead and lift the left knee when you're ready. Keep the foot flexed, the chest lifted. If you fall out of this, just come right back into it. Maybe open it out to let the ankle wobble, it's stronger. Back to center. Both hands on the waist, point the toes. 1, 2, 3, and release. Whoa, mama, that's a good one. All right, come back to the front of your mat. Inhale, bring the arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, look up. Exhale, step back. No chaturanga this time. I know, so disappointing. Just come to your knees, cross at the ankles, have a seat. Our other most important seated pose that we come back to every time is this, Dandasana. This is the seated four-limb staff pose. Feet are flexed. We're ripping the mat apart with our legs, so the outer hips are really working here. Again, if you need support under your sitting bone, do that, but sometimes it just helps to untuck the skin to get a little bit of the anterior tilt of the pelvis. The spine can just kind of go along for the ride. SCOOP, scoop. Lift the chest. Neck is nice and long. We're going to take a few breaths here. If your hips are weak, you're going to feel it here. Like even mine, I practice this all the time. But even I feel it almost feels like your hip is going to go out of socket or something. So I need to work on some strengthening there. You can stare at your beautiful big toes. And release. We're going to fold forward. If you have a difficulty folding forward here, I want you to bend the knees. Just like we're standing and folding forward. Get the belly as close to the thighs as possible. And then maybe reach. And once you're here, because we're not folding forward with the back, we're using the abdominals and the hamstrings, keeping the shoulders back. Maybe you can play with straightening the legs once you have everything set up. It's going to feel pretty special, but it's a tool. Another option is just to stay right here. Inhale, come all the way up, bend the knees, bring the bottoms of the feet together, and we're going to drop the knees out to the sides. Grab onto the ankles for stability. We're going to go down 2 times. The first time we're going to keep the back flat, nice straight spine. And it's going to be like we're aiming the chin towards the floor. The second time we're going to round, okay? So first, inhale, lengthen, shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, chin towards the floor. You might not go more than an inch. That's fine. If you do it the right way, I'll tell you what, that's how the body pushes on to the next level. If we are going to repeat habits that are not good for us, then that's where we'll gain the momentum and the bad patterns. Pay attention to the inner edges of the shoulders. Neck is long. Inhale, come all the way up. Lengthen. And now we're pushing the spine towards the back of the body. As we exhale, we're going to drop the top of the head towards the feet. Just do the best you can. And maybe the elbows can even push the legs away from you. Inhale, come all the way up. Grab the knees, bring them back together. We're going to lie on our backs. There's something you always know about our classes, right? Is we start on the ground, then we, knees, stand, and then make our way back down. Energetically, that's what we want to do. Bend the knees, let the spine settle for a moment. We have almost made it to the finish line. One more time, we're going to hug the knees. One at a time, lift them. rock left to right. And so you can stay here and keep rocking like this, or you can move on to happy baby, which is grabbing the insides of the legs, or if you can reach the bottoms of the feet, and then we press the knees towards the floor and rock that way. And even if you're grabbing the insides, you know, by the shins, you can still press the knees. It's just one more really good hip opener before we go into our relaxation. And then back to stillness, knees together, drop the feet. We're going to extend the legs, bring the arms overhead, and take a stretch. Circle the wrists and the ankles. Take a yawn. And the end of every class, our favorite, adult nap time. But seriously, this, if we are tired, we could fall asleep, which is fine. But eventually, what Shavasana is used for, it's not meditation, but it is a focus and an observation of what is going on in the body after our practice. So separate the feet and let the feet just kind of hang out. Palms will be facing the ceiling with the hands not touching the body, like 6 inches away from the body. Shoulder blades are flat. We keep that curve in the lower spine. The chin is a little bit lower than the forehead. For many years, I had to use something underneath the back of my head to make that happen. I had a neck injury. And we release all the muscles in the back of the neck by doing that tilt. If you're comfortable closing the eyes, close the eyes. And we're going to take a few deep breaths here to begin. So just really, really deep. Inhale through the nose. And you can separate the lips here and exhale through the mouth. Feel the muscles begin to soften. Again, inhale deeply. Exhale completely. Sink even this time. Gather up any stress or tension left over in the body. Gather it with that inhale. And then let it leave. Relax all the muscles in the face. Soften the jaw and the throat and the collarbones. And notice how this allows a release in the shoulders and the arms, as if they're sinking right into the floor. Soften the ribs and all the muscles around the spine, all the way down into the pelvis. Feeling the hips unraveling and the thigh bones falling to the back of the legs. Notice how this allows a release all the way down into the feet and out through the toes, till the legs are feeling as though they're sinking right into the ground. Do a quick body scan from the top of your head down to your feet, being sure that you're not using any muscles whatsoever. This is your opportunity to completely let go. We're not forcing the breath to come and go. We're just receiving the breath. And for the next moment or two, I will watch the time. Know you have nowhere to go, nobody to take care of, no tasks to complete. Just breathe and observe the body. Bring your awareness back to the breath. And slowly begin to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Begin to bend the knees one at a time, nice and slow. Let the legs feel heavy. And then roll onto your right side when you're ready. Use your arm as a pillow. As the Yoga Sutras explain, every thought, emotion, and experience leaves a subconscious imprint or a samskara in the mind. These imprints determine who we will be in the future. The asanas, or the postures of yoga, are an invitation to say goodbye to any of these extreme behaviors, to arrive at the truth of the present moment. So give yourself a thank you for coming to your mat today to face those types of things. They're not always comfortable. And begin to press yourself back to a seated position. Bringing your hands together in front of your heart. Thank you for letting me guide you today. The teacher in me honors and appreciates the teacher in you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for trusting me and being here. You guys make my day. Have a great day. Bye.